Hey there, guys. It's Metro, and today we are back. The last dungeon-specific episode of the new player guide series with my main man Cop, and this time we're in Tomb of Sargeras. What do you think about this one?
Oh, it's horrible. You know, we gotta get what killed Jaden at the end here.
So I always call it Tomb of Sargeras because people always say TOS, and just a little tongue-in-cheek joke there. But yeah, obviously it's Temple of Sethraliss. We're going to be taking a look at this. This is the last dungeon we're doing, but it's definitely it's one that I think is going to be pretty complicated to explain because there's a lot of weird stuff going on in this dungeon. Have you ever done this one much?
I've done it a couple of times, and all I can say is electricity is bad.
Oh, right, that's true. I forgot. That's an interesting part of the dungeon for sure. There's not a lot of ground traps in BFA Mythic Plus, but we're gonna have to talk about some today. So you might as well get started here. What you're gonna see a lot in this dungeon the main thing here is that there's too much count. There's just not enough places to skip. The people have developed this kind of it's a little fidgety, this way to get under count. But if you can get under count early, you're in a great position to upgrade the key. So I'm just telling new players this specifically because you're probably going to see somebody want to do this at some point. I personally, I really just don't care. The dungeon's not that difficult. If you're doing it on like a 20 or something like that and you're trying to upgrade it, obviously you need to maximize every second of it. But if you're doing like a regular sized key, it's really not that bad to go a little over count. It really isn't, because as long as you handle the bosses well, you should be in really good shape. This dungeon has three of the most some interesting bosses. Let's put it that way. I won't say they're difficult, but pretty much every boss in here has got a bit of a trick to it. So, why I'm saying this now is because a lot of people like to shroud out of the gate. So if you're gonna skip, you're gonna actually skip 3 different times in this dungeon, and out of the gate is the worst one, if you ask me. Not necessarily the least effective one, but the one that has the most potential for failure. That's because if you wipe or have any real deaths on the first boss or anything up to the first boss, that's it. You're not going to be able to skip again. And honestly, I have seen many times where we somehow mess up in the first 5 minutes of this dungeon and the skip has failed, and that's it. People literally they leave over that. So,
Wow.
this dungeon is probably the quickest turnover dungeon I've done. Very often we get to the first boss, whatever route we take to get there, wipe to it, and that's it. People leave. So. Just be aware of that. But anyway, let's talk about the trash, assuming we're not skipping. If you were skipping, you would be going past this pack, past that pack, and then past the third pack we're going to talk about here, but we're not going to be doing that today. So anyway, the marksman is got one very important mechanic here that you're going to want to know. There it is there, power shot. It is going to pick a person, and it is going to try to shoot at them. Okay, nothing crazy. It's dodgeable. But if you get hit by it, it does a ton of damage, and this Dust Devil is casting heals. Doesn't heal that much on 0, but on Mythic Plus, you're obviously going to want to kick that. So, yeah, not much going on here, these opening packs. Just a couple interrupts. The Lightning Bolt actually does a fair amount of damage, too, especially on a higher fortified key. But these pups, they're not elites. They have little health, but they're kind of pesky. They kind of charge all around. So, ideally, you'll keep everything together, especially if you're a Blood Decay. And yeah, you'll probably be in good shape that way. But otherwise, just nothing special there. Just make sure you're dodging the marksman. That's the big thing. Next pack includes a Stone Fist, which is a mob that's gonna basically just be like a bruiser type mob. It's got a lot more health, gonna do a little bit more damage. There's that power shot. As you see, it was targeting me. I could have dodged it. Other people could have dodged it more so, and you just want to make sure, nobody's getting hit by it if possible. So. There it is there, power shot. You see, I'm just going to move. He's going to shoot the shot, and it's not going to hit anybody. So. But anyway, this Stone Fist is going to do a little bit of a knockback. It doesn't happen that often, frankly. There it is there, ground pound. It does a little bit of a knockback. So the big tip I'll give is don't have your back down here. Especially with these stairs. You'll catch a little air like Tony Hawk. You ever heard of Tony Hawk?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's heard of Tony Hawk. So he's going to catch a little air just like us. And you might get knocked into that pack. Basically, if you get knocked down by this, kind of right there where I dropped D&D, if you're any further than that, you'll aggro this pack. And this pack's actually pretty interesting. This is a very difficult pack coming up here because there's 2 mobs in stealth that they're gonna stab you in the kidney. You ever get stabbed in the kidney, Cop?
No, not.
Okay.
I can't say that I have.
Well, that's lucky. Because it stuns you for only a few seconds, so it doesn't hurt that bad, I guess. So you're going to get stunned in the kidney, and you're going to be unable to play the game for a few seconds. So big tip is Death Knight, Icebound out of the gate. I've seen Jix also do, you'll see it happen here. They're stunned. Anyway, Yeah, I've seen Jix also do a nice little play as Demon Hunter, where you drop the fear, and it fears them even though they're in stealth, right? So then they won't stun you out of the gate, I guess. So I don't know, a couple ways, but again, 2 power shots can be going in 2 different directions like that often. So just make sure you're dodging it. Other than that, these fans, they're the ones that stun. They don't really do anything. On teaming, it's a little bit more complicated in here. There's usually a big that big mob that we were just talking about. There's a patrol of him, so almost assuredly, unless you pull this pack way back, that patrol is going to patrol from one side to the other. You're going to want to come. You're going to probably want to fight it all together here and just pop some CDs. Now, something that I probably should have brought up before we started here. We went this direction here on purpose, okay? It's pretty funny because early on in the expansion, I didn't really conceptualize this here, but the right side just, so you would have had to clear this pack, right? Then you would have had to clear this pack, and then you would have had to clear that pack. So there's just more trash, right, going right. There's other stuff on the right there too. So I can't really give you a great reason for never going right, other than just there's just a lot more trash. So you don't want to go right, okay? Because again, there's way too much trash in here, and I don't think there's ever a reason to get extra trash early. Like you see, you have to clear that pack, and then you'd have to clear that pack, and then you'd probably, I guess you could probably skip that pack. But anyway, don't go right, just go left. Again, here you're gonna notice whenever you see these Sethraliss hatchlings, they're these little yellow mobs. I don't know exactly how it works, but I guess it indicates that there's one of those rogue mobs with it. It's like it's their non-combat pet, kind of like Cop might have a little you know, like a little pet out, right? You got a little pet?
Yeah, I'll pull a little pet out.
All right, there you go. So that you see, Cop's got a little pet. That's basically it, right? It's like the rogue's in stealth, but he's an idiot. He's got a pet out. So I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but it seems like whenever I aggro this pet, one of those shrouding, that the rogues that stun you, they come as well. Now, this is important because on teaming, there's 2 of them, and they're roaming around in stealth by the boss. So if you're doing this dungeon on teaming, it's actually a much different landscape. So that means they're basically roaming around this giant circle here where you're fighting the boss. And if you don't pull them before you fight the boss, you're going to get double stunned in the middle of the encounter. That's not good. You don't want to do that. So yeah, you want to try to find those. If you see that Sethraliss hatchling and it's teaming, try to find them. You know, wait to pull the boss until you've gotten those rogues. So let's see if that's happened. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. Maybe if somebody has like a demon hunter, they could score of it. But yeah, I mean, we don't actually even have to aggro it, but it does seem like whenever you do, yeah, just one shot it. There you go. But anyway, yeah, one or the other, there's going to be a rogue here somewhere, I guess. I don't exactly know how it works. Maybe people will clarify it in the comments, but for me, that seems to be the way I've handled it. Like, that's the way I've approached it. If the little yellow mob is there, just kill it, and then the rogue will come. But maybe I'm wrong this time around. There it is. Yeah, so I don't know if that's a coincidence or what. But either way, one way or the other, don't worry about that part. Just make sure that you're getting this Shrouded Fang before you fight the boss. If you have not been stunned or you've not killed the Shrouded Fang before you fight the first boss, then make sure you find a way to do that one way or the other, because he's going to stun you on the boss, and that's not good. So let's talk about this first boss, because this boss is simultaneously one of the hardest and easiest bosses in the game. Basically, about 90% of its damage is avoidable, and if you get hit by any of that avoidable damage, you're just dead. That's just it. You're going to get one shot. Okay? Unless you're doing like a really low key, which I guess a lot of people might be, but realistically, do not get hit by any of the avoidable damage. And it's pretty easy to dodge, but you'd be surprised how many people fail to do it. So let's talk about what's happening here. The boss is basically like a 2-phase encounter, even though both are active at the same time. One is going to have a lightning shield on it, and that lightning shield is going to reflect a large amount of damage to you whenever you do damage to it with the lightning shield up. But it's apparently for dots. Like, for example, a bombkin, if they put up dots on the boss, it would only reflect it the first time, like the first tick, and then after that it would just continue to tick. I'm not 100% sure on that because I don't really pay attention to that, but if you are a multi-dot class, that might be the case. You might want to try that out yourself, or probably, again, somebody in the comments will confirm one way or the other. I have seen people do significant damage to the target that is not the target that you should be attacking, though, and it's somewhat successful. So, but anyway, you're going to always start with Adderus. That's a guy with the skull on him there. He is going to be the first target, okay? And it's very important that you know what you're doing here, because The boss is basically going to... Is that the right guy? Maybe I'm wrong about that. Hold on, let me pull him and make sure before I explain. Yeah, it's Adderus. Okay, so anyway, I'm just going to reset him. But yeah, so Adderus is going to do basically a mechanic that if you're not aware of it, you're going to just get one shot, all right? Legit one shot. And it's a little finicky because for me, I rely a lot on the deadly boss mod timers, and they seem to still be wrong on this a little bit. Like they're a little late on it. Let's put it this way. So what he's going to do is he's going to do a mechanic called Cyclone Strike, okay? It's going to target, like he's going to turn to a player, and he's going to look to hit them with it. And all it is it's a couple seconds, like a 3-second cast, and then it shoots out about 5 cyclones, kind of like a cone. Like all 5 start right next to him, and then they spread out along the cone. Do you understand?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're really far away from him and he targets you and he tries to throw those cyclones at you, it's going to be pretty easy to dodge. In fact, I've seen him pick range and they literally don't even move and they don't actually get hit by just luck. You know what I mean? So that's an option. If you're ranged, you might not even have to move. But the problem is it could hit anybody. So if you're in melee range of the boss, you have to know he's doing this mechanic. Because if you get hit by them in melee range, that's it. Lights out. You're getting one shot. I'm pretty sure even on a low key it's going to happen. So, like I said, the problem for me is there's a lot going on in the fight visually, and the DBM timer is like, basically like the cast will have already started before it alerts me to it. It'll be like a 3-second cast, and it'll alert me like a second and a half into it. So every once in a while I've been hit by this, but luckily as a Blood DK with the essences I've been using and stuff, I don't usually die to it. But as a non-tank, you better make sure. And it's not, you just got to look at the mob. There's nothing special. There's really nothing to it. You know what I mean? But people just don't look. And when the boss turns and he's facing you, you got to move. You got to get out of, gotta get out of there. And I don't know if the best choice is always to run through him, because if you're reacting a little slow, you might get clipped on the back by that. You know what I mean? So sometimes it might be best to just roll backwards or just get out of the range, you know, because if you get hit, but basically if all 5 tornadoes hit you, you die. But if you only get hit by 1, you're probably fine anyway. Just trying to minimize your mistake there. But there's some other mechanics, but frankly, that's the one that if I was to point out a single thing, that would be the one that you really got to dodge. So there's also a circle. He's going to put a circle, or maybe I don't know exactly who puts it on, but either way, there's going to be this circle that goes on a player. It'll do damage to anybody else if they're in it too, so you just want to spread out. A lot of times people are really hesitant to spread early, and I understand why, because you're going to lust on this boss and you're trying to kill Adderus as fast as possible, but a lot of people are really hesitant to spread early, so just be aware of that. If you're melee, you might want to do what you can to spread a little bit for them so they can kind of go at the last second. But otherwise, you're going to probably see that a lot. And what else? You're definitely going to have, then I guess like Aspects does this giant circle. It's like this giant ring around the character, and then it shoots out from the NPC. And Jix has told me that you could jump over this. Apparently, if you jump over the whole thing, the whole animation, you take no damage from it. I've never replicated it, but either way, it's just avoidable, or it's like unavoidable magic damage if you can't jump over it. So yeah, really good as a Blood DK AMS. Otherwise, just be aware, because there's a lot of mechanics happening at once. So if you've been hit by anything else, you're probably going to take a lot of damage there. But that's really just on the healer. So let's just see the fight, because the rest is pretty straightforward. But the one thing that you definitely need to know about is that Cyclone Strike. And then you see the Lightning Shield on Aspect, so you're just going to want to make sure that you don't accidentally attack. It's going to keep casting. Kind of a problem on there's the Cyclone Strike there, so it's targeting Poppy's move. But he didn't have to do that part, but yeah. And there's it's called Conduction apparently, so he's just going to spread, make sure nobody else is in that. Again, you probably want to spread to the last second. No reason to spread out too much, but you definitely want to maximize your damage. So here's Cyclone Strike. Let me get hit by all of it. Does almost no damage, but as you see, there's that other mechanic I was talking about. That mechanic always signals the start of Aspects. So we're done attacking Adderus now. You should be attacking Aspects. Whenever you see the shield up, you don't want to attack. Obviously not at problem 0, but we'll be able to get you. And then there's another mechanic there, Peal of Thunder. Just make sure you're dodging that. Oh yeah, and then the Gale Force here, it's going to knock you back. Make sure you don't get knocked back into that pack. I've had that happen before. Here's these arrow mechanics. I don't know the names of any of this stuff, but it's so easy to deal with. So just make sure you're not standing in where the arrows were. That's the big thing for that mechanic. When those arrows come out, just make sure you're not actually standing in wherever they were. Now we're back to Adderus here. Do you not see the lightning shield comp?
No, I did not really.
Okay. Oh, there you go. You got hit by the cyclone. All right, let's pull this again then, because you're gonna want to make. If you can't see the lightning shield, you're gonna need to change UI or something.
Beware.
Because that is absolutely, if you were doing multiple auto attacks to that thing while it was up, you'd probably just get killed by that. So, for me, I have weak aura. I think DBM's telling me about it. I have things on Plater. There's like 5 or 6 different things showing it. So
Gotcha.
I try to identify that. Well,
I will identify better.
yeah, the thing is, you'll always know when they're switching here, because Aspix is going to do that big, like I said, that big giant ring around her and then shoot it out. That indicates that the phase is about to switch. So we almost killed Adderus. This is a good indication of how this fight can go. You can kill Adderus in one phase. This fight is just a joke. Let's put it that way. Aspix is just a complete joke. It does nothing. She is just very, very, very easy to kill. So let's try again with Adderus. But yeah, we'll practice. So as you see there, the lightning shield is currently on. Just handling it now. Casting Jolt again. The only problem is with explosive. Sometimes that mob is going to summon explosives next to it, so there's cyclones right there. Boss perfect. And Conduction's coming out now, so that's on top again, obviously. He's just going to have to really run. Oop, look at that, hits nobody. Perfect. Here's the melee range. That's perfect. Static shock. Okay, here's the mechanic that Chicks was talking about. You can essentially jump over. I've never successfully done that, but now that this phase is swapped, so we're on Aspects. The Gale Force is happening. You're going to make sure you just don't get pushed pretty close to getting pushed over there, but you want to just make sure you don't go that direction. Don't get pushed in that trash pack over there. Move out of this Peal of Thunder mechanic, and then after this, the arrow mechanic is going to happen, and just make sure you're not in the arrows anywhere. So it's coming from Adderus, I guess. He's going to do kind of telegraph where he's shooting his kind of blink strike, and you're just going to move to make sure we're not in it when he does it, and that's it. That's the whole fight. So Gusk, you want to just interrupt as much as possible, just does some magic damage. Alright, shield is swapped, so we're back to Adderus. That's it. So now, do you see the lightning shield on Aspect right now?
Yeah, I do now. I see where it is on the plater, and I see where it should be on the
Perfect.
on DBM as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one, because if you once the other one's dead, that's it. You don't have to worry about it. It's gonna go away, so you can just attack. But anyway, yeah, if you don't see that, if you don't know when and where to switch, you're literally just gonna kill yourself. Like, I mean, this actually happens a fair amount in Mythic Plus. I don't know how, but people, they attack the wrong target and they just get killed. In fact, this was really common in Season 1 when Frost Mage was like super high meta. Frost Mage's splitting ice ability, it would hit both targets unless we pulled the boss separately. So that's something that I've grown to do recently anyway, just because I don't want to have them, like, ideally you would have them stacked up and they would die like normally, but when somebody's attacking the other one like constantly, they're just going to kill themselves. So a lot of the times I would pull it to kind of where we just showed here. I'd pull it to about here, and then the other one kind of just sits in the middle. In the old days, like I say, I used to just fight them on top of each other and just whatever happened, heal to it. But not a good idea now, especially some classes are going to hit both by accident. So that's it. So anyway, here we see the first floor trap. If you get hit by any of these gray swirls, you're probably just going to get one shot in Mythic Plus. They knock you around as well, which makes it problematic. Let's see what happens if I get knocks me around here a bit. Doesn't do much damage at all on 0. I guess maybe it's based on the key level. I don't know, but this does a lot of damage. So sometimes I like to just speed pot here and clear this out, because you get this guy down here as fast as possible. You're going to be, everybody's here. You're going to have no problems with this at all. But I have literally seen multiple deaths to that, and it's a pretty big noob error. So I have to say, if you're going to make that mistake, you're probably going to be looked at poorly in your group. So now coming up here, we have interesting combination of mobs here, but this is another place that you're going to skip. If you're going to try this triple skip, you're going to shroud or invis-pot here. You're going to try to skip this pack and the pack after this and get down this bridge that's coming up. But again, we'll fight this pack for now. It's got another one of these marksmen, but this time, for some reason, it's got my favorite ability in the entire game, Dust Cloud, obscured from view by a dust cloud. This means that, yeah, you can't hit the mob when it's standing. It's not like a smoke bomb where you could stand in it and then hit the mob. It's just can't be hit. It's can't be gripped, can't be whatever, knocked back. The only thing you can do with it is ring a piece. So, here you go, Cobb. Big play here. Oh, you don't have to.
Oops.
What are you doing, dude?
I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
All right. Anyway,
sorry.
Pulled, like, the...
Yeah, so I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so neurotoxin, any movement will trigger the neurotoxin. This is just a poison. You can poison the, you can dispel the poison. Otherwise, if you're moving around, you're gonna get stunned. I'm not exactly sure what mob that's from. Anyway, these crocolises here. Gonna breathe. Okay, just make sure it's not facing another player. And that's that. Let's see. Oh yeah, so anyway, this marksman, you'll see. Electrified scale, you'll also want to make sure you're interrupting, as it's basically the same mechanic from the boss, but it's not the end of the world. It's just much lower damage this time around. Screwing, yeah. So a couple of frontal cones. Power shots still happening here, but I guess we either killed whatever was doing the we'll see it in the pack coming up here, though, regardless. But yeah, anyway, what I was going to say is, if you ever see that mechanic on the ground, like, if you ever see the mobs in a dust cloud, just put ring on them. It doesn't matter which way you knock them, just knock them out, okay? Because it's like really, I'm telling you, this is like the worst mechanic in the game, and it's going to be featured on the pack coming up here. So, alright, so practice it this time. Go ahead and just throw a ring on, like, to pretty much knock them forward if you can. Now we can kill them. See, they're out of the dust clouds, they can't enter it, and that's that. But like, they literally stay in it for there it is. It's the snakes that do it. It's the dust cloud there. It's the snakes that do it. So you know you're gonna want to move them out, but while they're in it, you literally can't. I mean, I think it's like not 100% chance to dodge. I think it's like only a 70% chance or something like that. But still, like, you can't grip, you can't do anything, you can't reliably interact with the mob. So it's a real pain, and you're gonna see why on the boss here. But anyway, so if you did skip, you would have skipped this all the way up to here, and you might be getting away with skipping this too. If that's the case, that's really good, but it's a patrol. Patrol's from the top of the bridge to the bottom, so good chance you're fighting this thing. And again, just interrupt the thing, and it casts like a lightning shield, just like on the first boss. Otherwise, just keep the mob faced away, nothing special here. Trash itself, this is actually, I should bring this up now. Trash itself in this dungeon is some of the easiest trash in the game. This dungeon is not difficult at all on Fortified. I don't look at any of the trash in this dungeon as difficult on Fortified. In fact, I think it's the easiest Fortified dungeon. This dungeon, I think, you know, for people who think like dungeons are harder on Fortified, this is the dungeon you want to do on Fortified. It's got there's almost nothing dangerous. Obviously, giant big red squirrel, just move out of that. Kind of like does it to kill himself, but I don't think it actually terminates the mob like it did in Motherlode. I think I have seen him do it and then still be alive, so just be aware. But you don't want to stun it, you don't want to get out of it. Now these incubators, the mobs in this room are a little bit more important than you might realize. It's lightning in the bottle, which perhaps interrupted. It's going to put a little thing on the ground. And main thing here, though, is the tenders. They're going to do a lot of pesky stuff. There's the Pyrrhic Blast. They're going to do a lot of pesky stuff. So what I like to do is I kind of like to be in combat with only 2 to 3 mobs at a time here. There's Noxious Breath again. Make sure nobody's in front of the mob. And make sure you turned away. Electrified Scale, you want to interrupt if you don't. Just going to put Nature Damage Reflect on. So you might want to pull 2 of these at once. They have a lot of health. They're going to do some damage, but as long as people are dodging the breath and the tank's not constantly turning the mob, it should be pretty easy to survive that. Interrupt that, so people aren't doing extra damage to each other. But the problem here is if you pull a lot of tenders, this is what I was trying to get at. If you pull a lot of tenders, they're gonna do a lot of healing to each other. Let's put it that way. So really, this pack right in the center is kind of one of the most pesky. So let's isolate a single tender. Don't do any interrupting. Let's full gambit of mechanics. But you're gonna see Venomous Spit. That's just a dispellable debuff, nothing to it. Don't kill it. Just let it attack. Just let it cast for a bit. But yeah, it should maybe it heals at a percentage. I'm not really sure. It just usually just tries to like spam these abilities out. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the main thing that you got to be wary of is if you're pulling multiple tenders and you don't have interrupts, you don't have some kind of AOE silence, they're gonna do a lot of this stuff. So here's one of it, Drain. You can't actually grip this. It doesn't stop it. You would have to stun it. But otherwise, it's just a damage dealt increase. It is purgeable, though. So I don't know. They're not going to heal itself, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, we'll see it on the pack coming up for sure. But yeah, if you want it, you could stop it from draining. You can do it just by slowing it. Ring of Peace works well, too. Basically, it's going to go to one of these eggs around the room. You see these kind of like on Razor Gore almost. And once they get there, they're going to drain the egg, and they're going to get a big buff. So So this is like basically all of these mobs patrol. So this is like a pretty good size pack here. You want to just grab 3, draw on one side, and that's it. There's the greater healing potion there. As you see, it actually heals a good amount. So yeah, really you got to be ready to interrupt. And again, a lot of dispellable debuffs, especially if you're a druid. Want to be dispelling. They cannot, or they can dispel poison.
They can. I've been dispelling you the most of this dungeon.
Perfect. There's that lightning in a bottle. You see it's going to drop this kind of circle on the ground. It's just like a little blue circle. Just move out of it. Doesn't really do anything. And there's the drain again. So, yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. And not too much of it is that important. Just the big takeaway here is if you're going to pull a lot of tenders, you're going to need to interrupt. So let's see it here in action. Just do very light damage to them. Just, you know, light AoE. You'll see they all try to heal each other. And they are also, this time, they all start with this buff. So there you go. See, multiple heals. This guy's back to full health now. You don't. So basically what you want to do is, you know, there's these weak ores out there that mark any caster. So it's easier to say, I got purple, I got orange, whatever. One way or the other, you just kind of want to have people looking at a specific mob and interrupting them. So, you know, you don't have this pack taking like triple the amount of time. Because, you know, as you see there, even on 0, it's healing. These mobs are not dying as fast as they could be because we allowed them to heal multiple times now. So, yeah, that's just something to keep in mind because this room is another one. It's a little bit similar to Underrot, the room in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dogma. Not necessarily because you can't actually pull the boss unless you kill all the trash, but it's kind of like a free form. Like you can pull as much or as little as you want, really. And if you pull at all, like you think like, oh, I'm just literally just gonna pull like 15 mobs and just go nuts, you'll just never kill the pack. There's just too many healers. They're all gonna heal each other. So kind of the limiting factor here. Okay, so now Marika is definitely the break boss in here. You're gonna want to lust on 1st, 3rd, and 4th. But lusting here is probably something you never should do no matter what the dungeon's looking like. It's a very odd encounter, let's put it this way. Long story short, it has very few mechanics. Just it's going to do a frontal breath. It's going to put poison underneath wherever you are. So you just, basically, if you ideally, you'd want to kind of stack the poison up so it doesn't occupy too much space in the room. But it's really not that big of a deal. Most people just don't even interact with the mechanic and there's no problem. Just make sure you're not right in front of the boss. The other thing he's eventually going to do after I think like the 2nd phase thing starts, he's going to do like a blind. If you're looking at him when he finishes the cast of the blind, it's going to blind you for a few seconds. The easiest, you just turn away. Just turn your character the opposite direction. You won't get blinded. You'll want to make sure you do that every time. If you get blinded as a tank, he's going to switch aggro. So do not let that happen as a tank. But the real problem on this fight is these freaking snakes that come out, man. The first set of snakes, they don't really do anything. They're actually a different mob entirely. But then after that, every set of snake that comes out, it's going to do this dust cloud mechanic again. Okay, so the way the fight works is he goes under the ground and kind of like burrows around. When he's doing that, if you're in the way of where he's burrowing, you're going to get hit for a sizable amount of physical damage and get knocked back. But that's the least of your concern. Just kill the ads. He's going to summon the snakes. You're going to kill them. And then he's going to return. You're going to do that the first time. The second time there's going to be different snakes, but there's just going to be the snakes. And then the next time he does that, he's going to summon. He's not actually going to do that. He's just going to summon the snakes, and he's still going to be there. So at the end of this fight, basically from like 15% and lower, you're going to be dealing with these snakes that are going to be trying to put dust clouds on top of the friggin' boss. And I'll tell you what, man, the amount of times we get to the end and mess things up because of these stupid freaking dust clouds, dude, it is the most frustrating mechanic. Like, I'm not even talking about it's hard, whatever, it sucks. It's just terrible design. Like, what are you doing, man? There's no way to stop him unless you stun him multiple times over and over again. You just got to keep running around in circles with the boss so he's never in the dust cloud so you could actually finish. I swear to God, I've seen this boss be at like 1% for like 30 seconds. Because
Wow.
they're just constantly spamming staggered dust clouds, and I just can't get them out of them soon enough. So if you have Ring of Peace, that's a great time to move the snakes at least. Otherwise, just maybe, yeah, basically you're going to have to choose. You either crush the snakes or you finish the boss. Usually people are going to try to finish the boss. But on a really high key, I think it's probably best to kill the snakes because that boss is, you know, basically like whenever he does it, say it's like 15%, you got to finish him for 15%. If that 15% is like 1,000,000 damage, you probably should just kill the snakes. But anyway, there's another mechanic that I want to talk about in depth here before we pull. Basically, he's gonna root a person. He's gonna like tie a person up with snakes. Okay. It's actually a targetable mob. It's not like a stun. It's like the mob is like preventing you from taking action effectively. So what you can do here is you could disable that mob. It's channeling an ability on you, and then the ability stops. This is a really interesting mechanic, and there's been a lot of unique ways to deal with it. And this actually happened in Shrine as well, but it wasn't really a big deal. First boss at Shrine that was. Now this one is a lot more bigger of a deal, because if you get stunned either in the path that he's burrowing or in the poison stuff on the ground, you're probably gonna die unless you get out mad quick. And guess what? You could also get stunned and have a dust cloud on top of you. So really fun. I mean, just A+ design here. So anyway, the things that you want to understand here is that it's literally just a regular mob. It can be stunned. It's apparently a beast, so it can be hibernated. If you're a druid, you could hibernate it, and it will stop the channel. It can obviously, like, I'm not exactly sure what does and doesn't work, but if you think it would work, it probably does. And then on the other direction, it's just a stun. So if it was on a Death Knight, you could AMS, or you could Icebound Fortitude. If it was on a Mage, you could Blink, you could Ice Block. If it was on a Paladin, you could Bubble. You could also bop the person out of it. You know, I could use my single target stuns. Cop could use his AoE stuns. Like, there's everything that you think would work probably does. But you want to get this out as quick as possible. Otherwise, if you have no ability to just stun the mob and get it out immediately or CC it, like, I think Demon Hunters in prison works. For maybe Paralyze works. You can try it. I don't know. You'll probably get picked yourself, though. So anyway, if you cannot do this, you have to kill the mob that is assaulting them, okay? So make this clear. This is going to be a very, 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 very big problem on this fight if you do not kill this mob, if you do not deal with this mob instantly. But if you instantly deal with it, it's not a mechanic. Literally, it comes out and goes away immediately. But if you have to actually switch to this target and kill this thing, this is a very big problem on this fight, okay? So I want to make that as clear as possible here, because you do not deal with that, and the mob is stunning this person in the dust cloud, especially, but also the poison stuff on the ground. They are going to die. In fact, at the end, I've had it happen many, many, many times. That's usually what escalates the problems here. Somebody gets stunned in a dust cloud and in the poison at the same time. We can't get them out of it. They just die. This happens all the time. So let's get a look at the fight here. You'll see this fight is actually really, really, really easy on low keys. It's only really difficult on when it's got a lot of health. So there's Noxious Breath. You're seeing it's going to put it down in this cone. You want to kind of and then it's going to put it down again. So there's the knot of snakes. I'm just going to stun it and end it. Anyway, you see that. You kind of want to try to maximize that if you can. Basically, if you kind of take him to the edge of the room and then you start him there, then a lot less of the room is going to be covered in poison. And again, this is a big deal, because if that poison does a lot of damage. It does a lot more than you might think a ground effect would. So, but as you see, the first set of mobs, they literally just put a poison up. That's it. They don't do the dust cloud. And then after that, they'll start doing it. This mob is actually called the Venomous Ophidian, which is a type of snake. Something, and that's that. Alright, so here we go. Marik the back, and you just gonna kill him now. He's gonna do Blinding Sand. You're gonna turn away, as you see. Cop's gonna get stunned again, but I don't actually have a way to get him out, so you either have to wait 20 seconds or you have to kill it, right? Obviously on 0, no problem, we kill it, but that's so, okay, so here's phase whatever, the second transition. As you see, just auto dust cloud. Cops get stunned almost directly in him, so that could have been really bad. He could have been stuck in there. I would have lost my main Cop there, so not good. But as you see, Dust Cloud Cop action interrupt, that's good. But again, this is a really, 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 really good fight for Monk, Ring of Peace. Ring of Peace in these mobs is the only way you can actually get them out of there. I cannot death grip them out of it, so yeah, it's just a mess. And of course with explosive, it's even bigger mess because there's freaking explosives in the dust clouds. I just that is so poor. But it's so easy. It's so freaking easy. If you just have really good damage, or more so he has really low health, the fight goes so quick it just doesn't even do anything. You know what I mean? Like nothing actually happens. So as you see here, this is actually a great example. He is kind of stuck in multiple stacks of that poison. If that was a Mythic Plus, he would have been dead for sure. But that time he was able to stun himself. You're seeing now he's below certain threshold. He's gonna Blinding Sand again. I think he's probably gonna summon the snakes. I don't know, maybe it's like 10%. I don't know exactly when he does it, but he does it often. There you go. So Knot of Snakes is out. Pop is stunned and poisoned, and the mobs are out here, and they're gonna start putting down freaking dust clouds. So basically, we gotta make a decision here. Are we gonna help our friend? Are we gonna kill the snakes? Or are we just gonna finish the boss? I'm sorry, but you're on your own, buddy.
Finish the boss, man. Do it.
Yes. But you gotta move him, right? Like, he doesn't want to move, you know what I mean? He's just sat there shooting poison at me. I freaking cycloned and it missed, so nothing even happened. It's just a mess of an end to this fight, man. It really is. The worst ending of any encounter in this, maybe of any encounter ever. I mean, honestly, the only fight that reminds me of this reminds me of Putricide. If you guys ever did Putricide in ICC, the last like 10% of that fight were the worst design of any encounter, and it was so unfun. But if you just powered through it, it was the easiest fight to finish. You just had really good damage, you just powered through it. It was nothing. But it's the same way, this fight. If you just power through it, it's nothing. But if you have to actually live in that phase for a while, it sucks. It really does.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, I was stunned inside poison a few times, and even on a zero, that was starting to get
zero,
dicey.
I mean, not really a problem, but on Mythic Plus, you literally would have just gotten killed. So, all right. Anyway, so we got some Nimbus now. A really good. There's only 3 mobs coming up here, and then we're gonna talk about this puzzle coming up. But there's only 3 mobs, so you might be interested in pulling all of these together. That's up to you. If you think you can, feel free. I like to go 1 for 1 here because these mobs actually have, they can be gripped too, by the way, even though they look like they can't be. They have a lot of casts, and I think you really want to interrupt these because basically what they're going to do is they're going to try to put this charge on them. It's effectively just a buff. As you see, damage dealt increased by 50%, and then they're going to try to release that charge, and then they're going to do AoE damage. So if you're fighting 2 of them, it's unlikely that you're going to interrupt all of them, and they're going to do a lot of damage to you. So, you know, if you can kill them quick and you think you can get some interrupts, go for it. It's also purgeable, also spell stealable, which is probably the bigger deal because, you know, mage get a big buff on first stuff. And then there's the Stormcaller, who honestly I don't even know what it does. I really think it's just like entirely incidental. Maybe it did that little swirl on the ground. I'm not actually sure, but this Nimbus is actually a really dangerous mob type. The Stormcaller doesn't. Probably does that little lightning thing. Probably what it is. But yeah, otherwise just make sure you're interrupting the Nimbus. Right now at least there's often an emissary here. This is a very, very common pack for the emissary, so that's that. So now what you want to do is come over here and just RP like you're not doing the rest of the dungeon, because the rest is pretty unfortunate. So talk about what we're doing here. So as you see, this is like Super Mario Brothers 2 if you ever played it. There's these like electrical balls kind of rotating in a pattern. One's faster than the other, so basically the patterns are going to overlap every 3rd time is how it should work. And that means that if you're really fast, you can get through it about 70% of the time, and if you're unlucky, you have to wait a lot. So yeah, there's nothing to it. They have nerfed it multiple times, but you just run through the center. The only thing is that it's a little tricky. Like, see when this happens here, you know what I mean? Like, look at it. So I'm trying to get a little fancy. Don't get fancy. Just wait. It's not worth it. It does damage if you get hit by it, by the way. If you actually get hit by these balls, it does damage. But as you see here, the overlaps are happening, so I literally just have to sit there and wait. Now, a couple tips. If you're on the side here, Warlock can actually put a gate kind of like back here, up here, all right? It should work. You come through here, as long as you don't hit one of these balls on the way through. But yeah, obviously you can still do that. Demon Hunter, Warrior, etc. can jump past it that same way, as long as you don't leap. I think it maybe if you leap over a ball, it might work, but as long as you don't come in contact, basically as long as you don't take damage from the ball, you'll find success in the leap. Anyway, now this area here is a little bit interesting. There's 4 mobs here, and again with the count thing, you really don't want to pull the 2 on the right. So you want to just make sure the Stormcaller is not patrolling. He's basically kind of like looking at the Nimbuses. He's kind of like inspecting the Nimbuses. He's going to go from one to the other. So just make sure that he's not going to the far one, the one on the right. And as you see here, 2 charges of this is going to do a fair amount of damage. So purge it if you can, interrupt whatever is applicable, and that's that. Nothing really to it. So yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. You're only fighting these 2 ones, but you definitely don't want to fight these 2 on the right. No matter what situation you're in, unless you're like doing multiple skips on a teaming week, you should never need to fight that pack, okay? There's a lot of trash in here that is skippable, but it doesn't really equate to that much. Now here we have another elemental type, and this one is much more dangerous than last, because it's going to do this very quick kind of like that mechanic there. It's going to teleport to a person. It's always going to be to a person, near a person at least, and it's very, very quick. If you get hit by that, you take a fair amount of nature damage. So it's really a big problem when you're fighting multiple. It's not really a big problem when you're fighting only these two. But one thing I will say is on teaming, there's like 5 of these here. They interact really oddly with the fixes. For example, they don't bolster each other for some reason. They don't think they do busting either. Maybe not. But the one thing is, they when they sanguine, like when they die, they drop like 5 stacks of sanguine for some. It's like this extremely concentrated dark red puddle. You'll be able to tell it looks very different than a single stack of sanguine. But I'll tell you this: if you stand in that even for a second, you just get one shot. So, I'm not really sure why that happens. I don't really understand what's happening here, because when these mobs die, they effectively summon the boss. You see these little lightning orbs are still here. They're gonna summon the boss. So, anyway, what we like to do here is kind of pull these together. So now we're fighting 4 instead of 3 or instead of 2. And again, you're gonna have a lot to dodge. So this is actually a really dangerous pack. And on Fortified, this is probably the only trash in the game that I'd be worried about. Just because it's going to be really difficult for them, especially if, like, there's 4 of them, right? If 2 of them try to jump to the same person in quick succession, it's going to be very difficult for him to dodge both, right? So you're going to take a lot of damage here. So as a healer, unfortunately, this is a really good place to use CDs, but it's also a really bad place to use CDs because the boss is coming up. This is, like, the boss to heal. Like, this is infamous for like the HPS boss. Now, very easy to deal with mechanically, but it's very, very high numerically. Okay, not like Korgus where the damage is just unfair. It's just steady. Okay, on Korgus the fight was really high HPS because you couldn't do anything about the damage. Like it was kind of gonna overwhelm you. But this fight, it's the complete opposite. It's just gonna be a steady amount of damage on multiple people the entire fight. You don't have the mana pool or CD coverage for it, you're done. The boss literally has one mechanic. I mean, that's it. One mechanic. He has an energy bar, and if it gets to 100, you die. Let's put it that way. In fact, you probably won't die if it gets to 100, but you should treat it that way. You should never let this bar get to 100. Because if it gets to 100 once, it's probably going to get to 100 a second time, and then you probably will die. And that's just healing that's not needed. So the way you prevent it from getting to 100 is actually very easy. He's going to summon these spires. There's going to be about 3 out at a time. They're going to last for about 10 seconds, and they're going to overlap. He's going to summon one, then 5 seconds later he's going to summon another, then 5 seconds later he's going to summon another, kind of thing. So there's going to be like one up, it's going to end, another one up, it's going to end, another one. Then they're just going to be up kind of in a staggered pattern. The way they work is they're going to try to power up Galvas. All right, going to shoot an electrical line from them to him directly. Okay, you block it. You stand in between him and the electrical thing, and he does not get empowered. Instead, you take damage. You take a stacking debuff that makes you take more damage from the mechanic, and you take nature damage over time while you're standing in the line. Easy mode for blood decay, you know, things like vengeance, prop pally, things with good magic mitigation. Very easy to take these, and AMS especially because it'll prevent the stacking debuff from actually stacking. So ideally, as a blood decay, you'll get the first one, AMS it, then you can get the second one as well. But the fight has become infamous, so people all want to try to get the first one now. They want to be like the mechanical heroes, which is a good thing, but it kind of sucks as a tank because you want to use your CDs multiple times, and if they're not allowing you to, you're going to waste your CDs. But it doesn't really matter because that's a good problem to have. I don't know what's going to happen here with 2 people, but one way or the other, you're going to see the fight. The spires are going to come up. We need to block them. Sometimes they come up so close to each other that one person can block both. That's not always a good thing because you might be getting too many stacks of this thing and you might die. Another thing people do, and I know Jix is in favor of, he likes to pull it to the side. People like to pull it to the side. Basically, if you pull the boss here, he only puts the pillars around him. Let's put it that way. So if you pull him to the edge of a room, he can't put the pillars off the map, right? Like they can't. I mean, they can't go off the map, right?
He's got to play by the rules too.
He's got to play by the. I agree. So he can't put them off the map. So instead, they're all going to be like kind of chunked on each other. Like he's going to try to put one maybe off the map, but it's just going to get kind of slapped on top of another one. And what this does is it makes it a lot easier to soak them. Like if you're having trouble like getting people to soak them, because the way it would work, if you keep them in the middle, they're going to be all around them, 360 degrees, like the Xbox, right? They're going to be all around them. So that's a problem because it's like people are going to be tunnel vision and they're going to be like, oh, I'm in this side of the room. I'm not going to that side of the room. That's cop side of the room. I'm not going over there, right? But if you take them to the side, they're all coming from one side, okay? Now, the reason I don't like this is, first of all, as a tank perspective, the camera is absolutely messed up, and you can't. It's very difficult to see where they are exactly if you tank them right against the wall. So I often have to turn the boss, meaning that people can't approach the back easy, but I don't know if that's even a problem anymore. But anyway, the other reason I don't like this is because a lot of times 2 pillars are directly on top of each other. And this is, I just feel like it's not needed. I feel like it's overcomplicating a mechanic that if people just actually do, it's the easiest fight in the game. And if you're having trouble doing the mechanic, people not doing it, then maybe you should try tanking them inside. But for me, I don't ever do it because I don't, first of all, I don't think it's worth pinning yourself against the corner here as a tank. And second of all, I don't think it's worth having the occasional time where it's impossible to not soak 2. Because if you're going to have deaths in this fight, it's going to be to that. There's nothing else that can kill you. No random damage. There's no mistakes that you can make. It literally, if you soak the beam, you will not, like, that's it. The fight's over. So let's see it. You'll see what I mean here. But, yeah, just make sure you don't have too many stacks. Make sure people alternate. And I guess on 0, that's the thing. I can just try to get all the stacks. So here's the first one. You see it's kind of a little circle. Comes up, I'm going to AMS. As you see, I'm taking the stacking debuff. Galvanized damage taken increased by 100%, by 10%, back up every time. Now it's up to 40. Okay, so Cobb's soaking that one, very good. Now another one's out. I'm going to spread out over here. We're going to soak this one. Again, you just got to have your head on a swivel. You see another one's up, so Cobb's going to have to move to that one. Good, you got it. So that's how you do it. That's basically how you do it. Ideally, you'll alternate, like I say. You'll never take, you'll never let the stacks get above maybe 15 or something like that. Okay, so now there's a couple out. Now it's getting a little dangerous. Yeah, so there you go. You get that one. But anyway, yeah, you see we let him get a couple charges there. His bars moved up to 60 basically every second. It's on. Let's let him have it happen. Don't soak that one. Let's have him happen. You'll see what happens. Gonna cast this ability here. There you go. Consume charge. The problem is if you're missing one, you're probably missing multiple. So it's just gonna fill up again very, very quickly. And he almost did it again here, but as you see, Pop's got 280% damage taken. So yeah, he would have just got absolutely one shot if that went off. No way he survived. So that's it. I mean, that's really the easiest fight in the game if you do it right, and if you do it, it's just a really high numerical fight. It's a very unique encounter, and that is the fight you want Bloodlust on in here. You Bloodlust on no other encounter. That's the one you want. Right now we got another one of these stupid lightning mazes. Hopefully they're self-obvious. Like I shouldn't have to explain what to do here. Don't get hit by these orbs, and there's not really any trick. You can jump over it or whatever, do it. But yeah, just you really, the big thing here is you can't waste any time here. Like if people are getting knocked back multiple times, you're just wasting a ton of time. And the end of this dungeon is a bit of a pain. So before we do that, let's talk about it. Again, there's another lightning maze. Don't go through this yet. Let's talk about this one. This one is a bit of a pain because it's going to slow you dramatically. And I never realized it slowed me because I'm a Death Knight. I have a slow reduction baseline. But yeah, you know, if you could freedom, I think probably gets it off you. I don't know. But this one's a little bit more, got to run against these walls here. And the faster you get through this, the better. Because that mob at the end is the one that's making this wall. There's like a spark channeler back there. I think it's literally the only mob in the game like that. But anyway, yeah, you just want to get to the end, and you want to make sure that you don't get knocked back. Sometimes you'll see these pillars kind of obstruct your view of them, so you'll get knocked back without realizing it. Yeah, once you get here, just kill this mob solo, interrupt, and it's also going to do this lightning thing. That you get hit by that, you're done. I've seen a lot of people, they kind of like take a break here and they get one shot by that thing. It's really dangerous. So dodging that, interrupting that as well. Now this room is a little bit infamous as well, and you know, this place is very similar to Black, whatever it was, the Dungeon and Legion, where the bat gauntlet, because it's basically the same thing. It's very, very, very low health mobs, very low danger mobs that are all in basically kind of like BRD as well, if you remember. Torch room. But what's happening here is these mobs are they're gonna respawn fairly quick, not quite like BRD, but they're gonna respawn fairly quick. So it's a bit of a gauntlet, and the goal here is to get these eyes. You can kind of on my screen now. You're gonna need to get these eyes and place them in the statue right at the front of the room. There's 2 eye sockets that are empty. You need to get 2 of these eyes and put them in the statue. Now, there's a lot of weird bugs in this room. Let's put it that way. I'm not really gonna go over them here today because I don't know what's reliable and what's not. Maybe people in the comment will give elaboration, but I don't want to confuse anybody by talking about that directly. Okay. All I'll say is every once in a while something goes wrong in this room, and every once in a while something goes right to your benefit, like goes wrong to your benefit, okay? What I mean by that is every once in a while there's 2 orbs somehow. You can get 2 orbs on one side. Every once in a while the orb despawns. Every once in a while the mobs get stuck in the floor. I don't know what's reliable and what's not. So, okay. If things go right, the way you want to do this is you want to, as a tank, you want to grab pretty much all the conscripts between where we are now and the eye, and all the conscripts between the eye and the snake head thing, the goal, right? You want to grab them all and move them to the side, because if anybody comes near them with the eye, they get knocked out of their hand, and then they can't pick it up again for I think like 15 seconds or something like that. So if you have the eye, you're very, very, very slow. I mean, you're carrying a big eye, right? Like, you ever carry a big eye, Cop?
Not except the ones in my head.
Yeah, so he knows exactly what I mean. Like, you're really slow, and one thing that that is notable is that you could still use movement abilities. So, for example, Monk has a really good option. Windwalker, they got, what's it called?
Flying serpent kick.
Serpent, that's it. Yeah, and they got rolls, and that's good. So they can get it pretty quick there. Another big tip on this is Druid. If a Druid doesn't take it and then goes stag form, the person who gets it, they could hop on the Druid, like just the pinnacle of teamwork, right? Like, it's just absolutely great. A Cop could hop on the Majestic Stag, and he could just kind of ride his mount to the goal and then place the eye in the socket, and that's not gay at all. So anyway, yeah, you can do that, but the best tip here overall is Shaman. Shaman, just destroy this somehow. When they're in Ghost Wolf, it literally doesn't slow you. I don't know if that's intentional, if that's a bug or what. For some reason, when you're in Ghost Wolf, it does not slow you. So pick it up, go Ghost Wolf, you run at full speed. And that's your ideal situation here. But there's also another little thing going on here. There's going to be these like elite mobs. They're going to try to get the orb back. They're not very happy about Cop's Majestic, him and his stag. They don't like that. They're not like that. You know what I mean? They're old school. They don't appreciate that kind of frivolity. So what they're going to do is they're going to punch Cop in the, you see that? Oh my god, they're just going to punch him, and they're going to knock the eye out of his skull, right? And that's not good. When you get your eye knocked out of your skull like Michael Bisping, you can't pick it up again for a while. And for his case, ever, but for Game's case, it's only going to be a couple seconds. But this is a problem because then they're going to take it. They really like Michael Bisping's eye, so they're going to grab it for themselves. They're going to try to take it back to the place where it started, okay? So this is a real problem. It might not sound like a real problem, but it is, because if you get to the statue and you're like, I'm just right here, I'm going to just gonna pop it right in, and then the freaking dude knocks it out of your hand and starts taking it. Well, if you don't stop him, he's gonna take it all the way back to the start. Multiple ways to stop him. You could stun him, you could ring, you could knock him back, you could death grip, kill him, you know what I mean? Slow him, and just slow him and don't let him run as far. But while he's got it, you can't get it off him. You have to kill him. So what has happened here is a lot of people try to CC that guy. Then you worry about people breaking him and dealing with it that way. But ideally, yeah, you'd probably just CC him, get a shaman, pick it up, go right to the statue, put it in. That's it. Go to the other side of the room. Tank grabs all the mobs in between the statue and the eye thing. Somebody CCs the one that spawns when you grab the eye, and then shaman picks it up and takes it. That's it. It sounds easy. It's a lot harder than it looks. So let's show it off here today. This room is kind of like the make or break room, honestly. If you do this really well, it's really quick. And one thing to note here is putting the eye in the socket does actually give count. Go ahead and pick it up, Cop. You're going to see go ahead and pick it up. There's going to be, as you see, a guardian spawn there immediately. So he's going to, so you can't run through, again, you can't run through the eye, or you can't take the eye through mobs. And if it's on the ground, the guardian's going to pick it. Now we got to kill the guardian and do it. But yeah, so basically what I would want to do here is, as a tank, I want to get all this stuff between here and the statue and just kind of take it to the side. So Cop's going to try again, but this is guardian. Alright, I'm going to stun him. Okay, so yeah, just try to... Perfect. Okay, so you're pretty close, but the mobs haven't been pulled yet, so it's not going to work out. But Anyway, there's a couple guardians throughout the room you're gonna have to deal with, and they're gonna try to deal with you obviously as well. So, as you see here, with 2 people, it's a bit of a mess, and you know this is adding a lot of time to the run. Let's put it this. So let's just kill the trash, try to kill everything, and then it'll be easier. But yeah, this is adding a lot of time to the run, right? Like this dealing with this mob is not ideal. You know, now you should be able to pick it up. This should be right now. Cleared it out. Killed it fast enough that it's not a problem. You can also throw it, by the way. Yeah, practice. Okay, there you go. That's a good. Practice throwing it to me. Perfect. So I caught it, placed it in the thing. Perfect. That's it. All you have to do is get there. So again, now we're on this side. I'm going to run quickly, try to get speed boost going here. I'm going to get it all to the side here. I'm going to get all of this stuff. And then same deal. We're going to have a guardian here. And I'm going to try to pull that to the side as well. And then Cop is going to grab it and hopefully take a path that's not going to lead him to mobs. Difficult because I slowed the mobs like an idiot. And yeah, that's not that direction, obviously. Mobs there, but I guess it works out. There you go. Perfect. All right, so that's pretty good. So either way, whoever gets it, yeah, perfect. That was excellent. So perfect. Yeah, whoever gets it, just going to have to deal with that. The mobs don't despawn or anything like that. But again, putting the eye in the skull does a good count. So if you get to this room and you don't have count, that's probably a good thing. Well, if you don't have count, I don't know. We talked about count enough in here, but now anyway, once you've done that, a lot of people like to skip the rest of this here. These packs are actually really dangerous. This Heart Guardian is probably the hardest mob in here for sure. It's definitely not even probably. It's definitely the hardest mob in here. It's gonna stack this insane bleed on you, and it's a physical bleed too, so it's really difficult to deal with. But what you want to do here, if you are going to shroud or skip, you want to try to get as far as possible. You need to get to right about here, okay? If you get much farther than this, you're going to aggro the Hexer, and then you're not going to be able to skip. So this is a big problem, because this path is actually really long. If you're going to skip both of these packs with an Invis Pot, you're going to need to do it really perfectly. If you have no speed boost, you're in trouble. So luckily, some classes, you know, you use the speed boost, you can then Invis Pot after you use the speed boost, and it'll get you there. DK, ironically, is one of the best at this because I have a really long, it's not a very fast speed boost, but it's going to last for a while, so it's going to get me pretty far. Monk, unfortunately, doesn't have one. I guess with Tigers, less you can do it. You know, Paladin, Red Paladin, again, not noted for their speed, but again, they have the horse. You use the horse, then you mount, you can go. And same with Rogue Shroud. You got to get through this quick because it's, you know, it's probably about 20 seconds of walking. So basically, your goal is to get from right where we are now to see if I can put a marker. Not really. The marker would need to be about another probably 10 yards forward. I'll show you when we get down there. But yeah, about 10 yards in front. Kind of where my cursor is now. If you see where my cursor is on my screen, just about 10 yards. I'll put a skull so Cop's stream can see it too. But you see that cursor down, or that marker down there, Cop?
Oh yeah.
You kind of got to get in front of, like, there's this blue. It's like a little diamond looking thing in front of that. You kind of got to get in front of that. You got to get between that little kind of that diamond shape and that other the design on the floor, so it's hard to describe. But anyway, we're not going to skip. We'll just kill this stuff. So if you do kill it, you got the Hexers. They're going to do a lot of casting. Lava Burst is going to do a lot of damage. You're going to fight them in the room coming up as well, so get used to these guys. They can't be gripped, can't be stunned, but they do put this Dispellable Flame Shock up so you can dispel that if you're the healer. Otherwise, you're going to want to interrupt every single one of those casts if you can, especially when you're only fighting the one, because it's very bad. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of damage, and it can really overwhelm you. So as you see here, Heart Attack. Wow, that's a grim name. I never actually looked at it. But anyway, he's going to put this massive debuff on you. You're going to be taking so much damage. And again, on Emissary here, this is a really dangerous pack, so you really don't want to fight this pack if you don't have to. Mostly because it just means that you're giving up on trying to get under count. This is the easiest place to skip. Like, if you're going to skip some of the other places, fair enough, go for it. They're a little bit more complicated than this. This is literally just run in a straight line fast, and you skip 2 of the hardest packs in the game. If you were going to skip any place in any dungeon, this would be the place for it. Also, yeah, Cop's currently a Snake Charm, so that Plague Doctor is going to be part of the encounter. You're going to want to interrupt him. And then basically, yeah, Snake Charm there. You see it's going to kind of CC somebody, I believe. You're what? Yeah, you're a snake. Okay. You could dispel that. It's magic, but otherwise it can be interrupted. So just try to interrupt these Plague Doctors as much as possible on the encounter as well. But here you'll see one on the trash too. So Now up here, there's 4 hexers. In order to start the encounter, you have to kill the 4 hexers. But the way it's going to work here is you're going to want to probably do 2 and 2. I like to do 2 and 2 on any real key because they are going to do a lot of magic damage. And it's easy as AMS. So what I like to do is I like to get out in front, get them to target me, and then AMS the first one, and then interrupt the second one. So I basically, nobody takes any damage the first time around. They won't always target me, though. That's the thing. So as you see, this one's targeting Cop. So now he, yeah, he's going to get targeted by it. If he got hit by it, it's not a real big deal. Again, you can dispel it or interrupt it, but pretty straightforward. I've seen a lot of people try to pull all 4 here. You can do that, and that's perfectly fine, and go for it. But I'm just saying it's going to be a little risky because if all 4 of them get their casts off, you're probably going to take a lot of you're going to take a lot of damage. The healer's going to have to use a lot of mana, and that's a real problem because this next fight is actually a healer fight. You're literally it's not even possible to kill the fight without any healing whatsoever. So hopefully we'll be able to do it. We're going to talk about it one way or the other. But basically, you have to heal this mob to full. It's kind of like, what was the name of the fight in ICC? Do you remember?
Oh, it's like Balustras or something like that.
No, that's I think it's Valithra Dreamwalker or something like
Yes.
that. But anyway, it's a similar encounter in ICC, very famous encounter. The fight doesn't end until you heal the boss to full. So this time around, there's very little options for the DPS to help other than actually casting heals. But let's talk about how it works before we do anything. So in order to engage the fight, you have to go talk to her. I have an add-on that's going to automatically engage it because it's a bit of a dialogue thing. But you'll typically, when you talk, you should probably do it before we start just to show. Don't do it right now, but yeah, you could show the dialogue before we go. Anyway, so let's talk about this fight. Okay, so the way it works is as soon as you start the encounter, there's going to be 4 dudes who are going to channel on her. Long story short, okay. They need to die because while they're channeling on her, she's taking 25% reduced healing for as many people that are channeling. So at the start, 100% reduced healing. You kill 1, 75. You kill 2, 50, blah, 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 right? So you got to kill all 4 of them before you could effectively heal her at all. And she's got a lot of health. Let's put it this way. You're going to use probably about 75% of your mana bar getting her to 100% quickly. So you don't want to be wasting mana on doing that. Now, once you kill all 4, it's going to drop a little orb that's going to, you could use it to channel on the mob, and it's going to heal it for probably like 5 to 10%. It's not much. It's not much at all. Maybe less than that. I don't even know. It's so inconsequential, I feel like I don't even notice it. But it's there. You can click it. Just make sure you don't click it too. Actually, I think it might not be from killing those. That's how inconsequential it is. I don't even know what it does. I think it's from killing the Guardian. So let's talk about that mob. That's the mob we just talked about earlier. He is still going to put that damage debuff on you. That heart attack thing, okay? That is very, 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 very dangerous on this fight because there's a lot of ambient damage. So he's going to spawn. You're going to get him over to one of the targets that are going to be up, and you're going to focus fire him down while cleaving off him onto the other targets. That's your goal. Kind of maximize your damage here. On top of that, they're going to be summoning these Plague Doctors. These Plague Doctors are going to be the ones that we just showed as well. They're going to try to chain lightning. They're going to try to turn Cop into a snake. I mean, do you like being a snake?
I do not like being a snake.
Okay, so that's interruptible on that case. So we'll do that. Dispellable as well. And the other big thing that you have to realize here is there's these little kind of blue circles on the ground. If you get hit by them, it's like lightning coming from the sky. You get hit by that, that's probably a death. I mean, you might survive it, but it's going to be so much damage that you really just can't stress the healer's mana pool at all. That's the problem here. If you want to get this fight done as fast as possible, the DPS have to take 0 avoidable damage. Have to, because they cannot afford. Healer wants to spend all his mana on his biggest, on his quickest heals, so he can get it done as fast as possible. And if he has to conserve mana while he's healing the snake, the chick or whatever, then the fight is going to last so much longer. So, on top of that, there's going to be these little frogs. There's frogs that are going to come out, and they're going to, if they get to, basically they're going to try to chase the target. It doesn't really matter if they get to the target or not. If they come in contact with somebody, they're going to put a healing done debuff up. I think it's like a 25% debuff. But it is a disease, I believe, so it can be dispelled by certain classes, can be AMS. What I like to do as a Death Knight is I like to just grip them to me. Because I don't need to really heal, and it's easier, but sometimes if I grip them through somebody, it will hit them instead of me. You can also kill them. They have very little health, so if you really wanted to, you can legit just kill them. But otherwise, just go and stomp on them. Basically, just run through them and they'll go away. And they'll put a debuff on you, but it does a little damage, I guess, but it's not really dangerous at all. It's just you got to make sure it doesn't get to the healer. Because if multiple get to the healer, that's just slowing the fight down so heavily, especially if you can't dispel. So that's really the fight. You get phase 1, you do it without anything. You just, use your CDs on the pull, pre-pot, start the boss, kill the Heart Guardian, and then kill the 4 dudes channeling on him, and that's it. Kill any stuff that's out. Second phase, there's going to be a lot more frogs. You're going to have to deal with that. This is the time you want to Bloodlust, the second time around. Basically, you got to get her to, I think it's like 70. Yeah, the first time around, you got to get her to 70. Then she goes into another phase. You do it again. You get her to 100. And then there's a third phase where she buffs the hell out of you. The fight's over, okay? So you want to lust the second time around because it's going to be the longest and the most dangerous phase. But the thing here to note is the third phase, there's some peculiar things you can do or deal with a little bit different than you might think. Let's put it this way. So at this point, you're basically a god. Let's put it that way. I mean, you're just a god. You don't need to know what's happening. You're just a god. You're going to do way more damage, and you're going to take way less damage. So what a lot of people like to do here is get under count in such a way that they can then go and pull all the stuff we're talking about skipping in this hallway back here, pull it at the end of the encounter. And then you just destroy it, like you like you make it unlivable. You know what I mean? Like it gets destroyed. So that's one way to get under count. A very advanced tactic. You're probably not going to see that, but just in case you see it, that might happen. I wouldn't really ever plan on doing that though, because it's very difficult to get under count like that. But anyway, it might happen, especially in season 4 now with all the different skips you'll have available. But at that point, don't use any So the other thing you might want to think about is explosives. On this fight, explosive is extremely dangerous because there's like 5 targets up at a time sometimes, and there's going to be explosives all around the room. So if you are fighting this boss on explosives week, you need to make sure that you have basically one person cognizant of a kind of like a quadrant of the room. There's 4 targets. You should probably have 4 people on 4 different targets. Like, you still want to kill the Heart Guardian first. But if you have ranged, you want to have the ranged attacking that, but kind of still be responsible for an area of the room. Otherwise, somebody has to make a big play. This is probably the hardest fight in the game for explosive because there's a lot going on, a lot of mechanics to deal with and dodge, and then on top of that, there's going to be a lot of explosive spawning. So just a heads up for that. But otherwise, yeah, if you have a DPS that has healing potential, you want to do that. Great fight for a Rep Paladin. Lay on hands, really Paladin in general. If you brought 5 Paladins, this is probably the easiest fight in the game for 5 Paladins. 5 lay on hands, just going to heal them from probably 25 to 75 without actually casting another spell. But otherwise, the essence I'm using currently, Crucible, it does heal as well, right? So Concentrated Flame, throw that at the avatar of Sethraliss, it will heal him a bit. Cop's got some actual hard cast heals, so he can do that. Like, you just want to help out at that point. It's just, there's no reason not to. I've seen arguments break out over this, actually. I've seen arguments break out where it's like the healer is out of mana and the bombkin is just sitting there. He didn't innervate him. He didn't cast any heals. And you're like, dude, why won't you heal him? And the dude's like, oh, I'm not healing him. That's not my job, So anyway, that's that. So go ahead and open the dialogue, Cop. Show your portion of the video, what it says. Tell me what it says as well, because it's been a while.
You see the avatar of Sethraliss before you. Though still alive, she is very weak from the troll's meddling. All around you, ancient defensive wards flicker to life. We will restore you! Do you want to start the encounter? Let's do it.
So basically, you'd want to pre-pop before you do that. And as you see, 4 hexers around the room. There's the Guardian. So we're going to want to kill that thing quick. Keep it on top of another hexer so you can kind of just cleave off it. And all your single target is going to be poured into this thing. There's the little lightning strikes I was talking about. You get hit by those, you're in bad shape. There's a Plague Doctor spawn as well. Fully grippable, so it's really nice with Blood DK, but otherwise you want to interrupt it. Oh yeah, so there's actually the circle orb thing I was talking about. That spawns when you kill the Guardian, not when you kill the Hexer, so that was my fault. But at this point, though, you don't want to be attacking the Plague Doctor. It's not doing anything, so don't worry about it. We got to get these Hexers killed as fast as possible. The longer this phase goes, the worse, the healer's going to have to heal and the less mana he's going to have, so... Basically, if you're a dot class, you want to probably put 4 dots up, kind of thing, you know what I mean? You want to keep them going, kind of keep your damage spread. There's no priority here. You just want them all 4 to die, okay? So that's that. Now at this point, I don't know what this is going to look like with us, so you're going to have to do some healing here, Cop. I'm going to throw out my essence when I can, but we have to get it. Well, that's actually going pretty quick, I guess because it's 0, but so here's the toads. You see, I'm just going to kind of step on them, and they're going to put this plague up on me. Cop dispelled it, I guess, so that's nice. But yeah, there it is. Their healing reduced by 50% and does plague damage, so it's not really that big of a deal, but anyway, you got to get him to 70, 75 maybe. I think it's 70. The Cop's doing a pretty good job healing it, so that's good. Also got the essence picking a little bit. Good, there we go, 70, perfect. So we did it without a healer, pretty nice. This is a fight that you really can't do without a healer though, like on a Mythic Plus. It's just gonna take like 10, 15 minutes without a healer. So for some, we actually had this happen where the healer left, and literally we just had somebody. This is a really easy fight overall. Like, not really a high DPS requirement or anything like that. So we actually did this with 4 people. We just had one of the druids in our group switch to healer, come back, and that was it. We killed the fight, finished the game. Very straightforward. So, but again, you want to kind of keep these kind of ambient mobs on top of a hexer so you can kill it, and then just kind of watch the toad. Don't let the healer get hit by the toad too often, and make sure you're interrupting the snake charm. So, yeah, just kind of always be cleaving kind of thing. Like, keep damage high in the hexer. Spread your damage out as much as you can, and just make sure that things die as fast as possible. But anyway, that was the phase that we would have bloodlusted. We were doing it for real. Bloodlust there, and now also this orb has a duration, by the way, so I'm not exactly sure how long it is, but if you don't click it in a certain period of time, it's going to go away for good. So anyway, now it's time to heal again, so Copy will have to do that. I'm going to try to get these toads off him, since basically replicating a healer in this situation. Also dispel it, but yeah, as you see, there's a lot of freaking toads. So I have 6 stacks of this, not ideal. But yeah, that's that. And then again, help with any type of healing you can do, and finish up mobs otherwise if you're not the healer. Snake charm, that probably should have been interrupted. Okay, but yeah, so that's that. We just got to get it to 100 and we're good. Snake charmed into lightning, boom, look at that. That's funny. But yeah, that's that. Nothing else to do now, just sitting here waiting. So sometimes, like, if you're not in a rush, you can literally sit here and just wait. Like, there's nothing else going on. The fight is over. We finished the encounter. Now she's going to buff us to this empowerment is going to absolutely buff us to hell. I'll show it here. Damage taken reduced by 90%, haste increased by 50%, and movement speed increased by 30%. So as I said, God status. And again, if you want to pull the extra trash here, if you still need count, go for it, but it's very difficult to get under count in this dungeon, so that probably isn't going to happen very often to you. Also, something else to keep in mind here, if you are doing this on explosive weeks, you don't need to kill explosives here. They don't do any damage. Don't even bother with them, just finish the fight. The fight doesn't end until every single mob is killed though, so even though you can't die here, you can still lose a key here. Because if you don't kill stuff quickly, you're literally going to waste time. You know, you might miss the key because of that, but explosives come, don't waste time on them, because they're going to explode and they're going to do no damage to you. That's it. That's the dungeon. What'd you think?
It's actually really interesting.
Very unique dungeon, and you know, I used to dislike it because of how unique it was. Like, some of these fights are so bizarre, but you know, I quite like it now. I think it's probably one of my favorite dungeons. It's definitely in like the top half of dungeons, top 5 for sure, because this dungeon is really friendly on Fortified. I'm talking about really friendly. Like, if you were gonna be happy about a Fortified key, it would be this one for sure. And I'm not really scared of Fortified, but this dungeon's Fortified. It's just easy. The problem with this dungeon is skipping. This is the real problem. Having a good time on this key can require multiple skips. You could just use 3 invis pots. In fact, we did it the other day where we used 2 invis pots and we still were over count, but actually anyway, we didn't do. But regardless, you can use 2 invis pots, 3 invis pots, 1 invis pot. You're gonna want to skip some things. Let's put it that way, because there's just too much count. So I don't know what this is gonna look like in season 4. That's another reason I wanted to save this for last, but it's going to be about getting under count one way or the other, regardless of how this boss is done. Now, it's actually interesting that I'm thinking about this, because I didn't really think about this for any of the other videos, but this fight might actually be the easiest fight in the game to deal with multiple lieutenants. You don't know, the way it works is, you don't kill a lieutenant throughout the dungeon, he joins you on the last boss. Most fights, you'd think that's a nightmare, like on a boss like after the final fight in Atal Dazar. You don't want a freaking lieutenant there. Maybe this fight, it wouldn't actually be that bad. Be interesting. I don't know though. So regardless, that's something to consider for the future.
Yeah, especially if you could do it after she makes you God mode.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if you could somehow keep that mob up the whole time without it killing you, and you just kill it with the God mode thing, this might actually be the dungeon for it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, once you get used to those electrical traps and floor traps and stuff, I can see how this could be a really nice dungeon to just cruise through.
They already nerfed that floor stuff once, so I don't... It was a problem at the beginning, for sure.
Yeah,
It was really fast. They made it about 50% slower now, so... It was a problem in the beginning. It really shouldn't be a problem now. If for some reason you still can't figure it out, just take a deep breath. You know what I mean?
It's not about figuring it out. It's just about, being precise with what you're doing and getting used to the idea of it, right?
That's it. It's just about being calm. Like, don't try to sprint through it. Just take your time and get through it, even if it takes a couple seconds extra. I've actually had people kill themselves there. Literally. They keep running through it and messing it, and they die. You take a lot of damage from that on a high key. So it's definitely better to just play safe rather than sorry.
First time I ever went to go get a Mythic Plus key, I did a Mythic 0 group to get a key, right? And this was the dungeon that they took us to, and I got so... I kept trying to go through those electric things, and I kept failing at it. They just finally said, just die! Just die! We'll res you over here. Or maybe our priest can life grip you over here. Just die! And they got real frustrated because it took me like 15 minutes to go through. Of course, that was way back at the beginning of the thing, but...
It's an interesting story, because I'm sure that's going to happen to some people in Mythic Plus too. But yeah, you can be summoned past it as well. If you have a warlock and the gate thing doesn't work, you can summon them. You can grip them maybe, but just take a deep breath and you'll get it. So anyway, that's the dungeon. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just let it happen. You'll get past it.
Yeah. All right, so that's the dungeon. Like I say, probably 4 of the most unique bosses in the game, 2 of which I think are really fun. I really like the 3rd and 4th boss. I think they're really well made. Second boss, though, really a pain. So hopefully if you're doing this, if you're looking at this video, this is for people looking for new player stuff. You're probably never going to have this problem with the second boss, but just be aware, eventually you're going to get to a key level where you're going to fail to kill that boss fast. It's just going to be a mess and you're going to hate it, but... Yeah, don't get deterred. Hopefully Season 4 is interesting in here. But thanks for watching. This is the last dungeon one. So we're going to be doing more videos in the future on other topics. I have a video on my pugging mentality, my thought process when pugging. That'll be coming out later in the week. And Cop and I are going to get together again once Season 4 launches. We're going to make videos on Mechagon especially. And we're also going to make a video on affixes. So stay tuned for that. We just want to make sure that the affix combinations don't change again like they did in Season 3. And if they don't, then we will make a video on all the affix combinations and new player guide to that. So, any closing statements here?
Not a one. It was a lot of fun, buddy, and I'm looking forward to our stuff in Season 4.
All right, so that's it. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.
Peace. Cop out.